Hi guys, I'm Lindsay and today I'm going to be talking about riding the fast circles. So this video is kind of geared towards the reiners and the cow horse riders and people who are showing at some speed in the lope. But we are gonna big time simplify it, bring it right back down to the grassroots. So all this information is definitely going to apply to you, even if you are not in a position to be competing in the reining or the cow horse, or maybe you're not even in a position to be riding a really fast lope yet. All of this stuff is gonna help you. So what I would like for you to do is to grab if you have your saddle at home with you and you can set it on something that's fairly stable, like a saddle rack or something like that, that would be great. If you don't have your saddle at home with you and you can sit on a chair, or if you can sit on the arm of your couch or something like that, let's get super creative. I spend a lot of time telling my kids not to sit on the arm of the couch, but let's just go ahead and do it for this video. So where I would like to start is with the seat. I always like to start with the seat first. Then we'll talk a little bit more about the upper body, what the upper body is doing, and then we'll talk more about the lower body, so what the legs should be doing in the fast lope. And I'm hoping, I'm planning for you to actually make some progress and gain some understanding of what you can be doing in the lope and the fast lope right now, today, while you're watching this. So in the next 5 minutes. So where I like to start, and if you are sitting on something that is hard, so if you've taken a chair from your kitchen or something and you're able to sit on a hard surface, then what I would like for you to feel for is your seat bones. If you can feel your seat bones, and hopefully you can feel both of them. It's not unusual to be able to feel one a little bit more than the other. That's totally okay. I'm pretty sure that my seat bones are two different shapes. My right one must be a little bit pointier. I always have an easier time getting a hold of that right seat bone than I do my left. But as I'm sitting here and I'm balanced, I can feel both of my seat bones on this hard surface. So I'm just sitting on a mounting block right now. So when we are riding in the lope, we are always on either the left lead or the right lead, right? Hopefully we're not cross-cantering and on something in between there. And that means that our inside seat bone corresponds with whichever lead the horse is on, okay? So just let's not get confused with lead changes and all that kind of stuff right now. Let's just pretend if we are riding to the left, if we're riding on a left circle, we need to have a little bit more weight on your left seat bone than on your right. So if you kind of move around a little bit in your saddle or on your stool or your chair or whatever it is, hopefully you can feel both. And then if you can, just try to position a little bit more weight on your left seat bone than on your right. Okay? So you don't want to be collapsing through here. You don't want to be doing, don't do anything really dramatic, okay? You want to keep your upper body long, and you want to just see if you can put a little bit more weight on your left seat bone than on your right, but still have contact with your right. Okay? Hopefully you've got that. Okay, so what that does is that helps keep us anchored on the horse. So as soon as we are traveling on a circle, or as soon as we are traveling in the lope, where the gait is not symmetrical, right? The horse is stretching more with one side of the body. We are fighting with some centrifugal force. So our fast circles, if you can imagine, like at the NRHA Futurity Finals, when they are just absolutely hauling butt around the arena and dirt's flicking up on the walls, the horses are really running as fast as they possibly can. There's a lot of centrifugal force there. When we're just loping in, let's say a horsemanship pattern, okay, there's not a ton of centrifugal force there. However, in order to keep your horse balanced, if you are traveling on the left lead, you need to have a little bit more weight on your left seat bone. The faster you go, the more you need to be able to hold your body to that side. So that does not look like, if I'm gonna lope off on a left circle, that does not look like me lifting this hip right up and only leaning on that seat bone, or only leaning on that seat bone back here. but it sure as heck means that my obliques need to be strong so that I can hold myself in a position where I am centered over my horse's spine and my horse's center of gravity, and still maintain that anchor, that seat bone that's kind of, I imagine it like an anchor kind of digging down into the sand. That's what's gonna hold me from slipping to the outside, to the outside, to the outside. If you've run fast circles before, or if you have practiced spinning before and at the end of your spins you kind of end up stuck over to the side like this, then you know what I'm talking about. So that's the first step, is knowing where your seat bones are, and knowing if I'm traveling to the left, then I need to have a little bit more weight on my left seat bone. And if I'm traveling to the right, then I need to have a little bit more weight on my right seat bone. Okay, guys, we're just gonna talk a little bit more about the seat here before we move on to the upper body and to the legs. So the other thing with the seat, and I think probably the part that is the most difficult thing to develop, so the seat bone thing's pretty easy. Hopefully you got the hang of that fairly quickly. The other thing with the seat that we need to do is we need to make sure that the pelvis is rocked under. Okay, so what a lot of people do when they ride, and the human body was not really designed to be sitting on a saddle on a horse. So when our legs come apart like this, what a lot of us do is we end up with this arch in our back and almost like a kind of like a pot belly frame here. And if our hip is rocked back like this, it really stops us from being able to be balanced on the horse and to match their stride. So what I mean by that is, as the horse is reaching like this with their shoulders, we need to be able to have our hip positioned underneath here and opening and closing with that stride, so that we feel like we are balanced over their center of gravity and we're not interfering with them. Okay, so if my flexibility is a bit limited here and I've got, let's say, my butt out behind me, and usually what happens is the leg comes further forward here. So instead of it being here where I've got a line where it goes from my ear to my shoulder to my hip to my heel, usually if I'm lacking a little bit of flexibility here, it shows up here where my knee is further forward. So what happens here in the fast circle is, as soon as that horse lopes off, I'm behind the motion. My hip is still closed here. See this angle in here? My hip is still closed, which means that as the horse is traveling, my weight is just behind the motion a little bit. Okay, so we don't want that. There's a whole bunch of reasons why we don't want that, and there's a whole bunch of ways that that will influence the horse, but we're not going to get into all of that. Okay, you're just going to have to trust me for right now. What we want is to have the hip rocked under. So again, if you're sitting on a saddle and you can get on and kind of sit comfortably, and then if you can try to rock your pelvis underneath you, or the other thing that I like to explain is pretend like you're trying to suck your belly button in towards your spine to get your hip rocked under, okay? So you should feel like your abdominals are engaged here, and you should feel straighter. You should feel longer and straighter. It might not be terribly comfortable for you, and you might not be able to get your leg so that it's right underneath your shoulder. Your leg may still be up here, and you may only be able to get your hip under you a little bit. That's fine. My whole philosophy with all of this stuff is that we want to take you from where you are and just make it a little bit better all the time. Okay, we're not going to take you from wherever you are, try to force your body into this ideal position that's going to make you really uncomfortable, and it's going to make you even less balanced, basically, in your fast circles. We just want to make a teeny tiny little bit of progress, but like physically make a teeny tiny bit of progress, but we want to have a lot of understanding for where the body should be, so that we can constantly be working on getting it there. Okay, so that's two things with the seat. That's the seat bones from side to side, okay, and then that's the hip being rocked under. Okay, upper body for the fast circles. Okay, so what we want to start with the upper body is kind of going from the seat and branching outwards. The seat is the most important piece. So we're trying to get that hip rocked under, feel like we're sitting on the pockets of the jeans, belly button sucked in. From there, we want to make sure that our shoulders are really, really even. That is really hard, increasingly hard as you speed up and if you're riding at one hand. So a lot of times what happens when we're riding at one hand is this, okay? And I don't mind so much if the shoulder kind of comes forward, but the chest stays straight. It's this that really gets us into trouble. Okay, so if you already took the time to rock your pelvis under, you're sitting in your chair or your saddle or whatever, and you took the time to rock your pelvis under, if you push one shoulder forward, can you feel how that affects your legs in your seat? Okay, so you push this shoulder forward and you saw this leg come out, this leg came out, and this leg came in more. So now I'm using the saddle to balance myself, or I'm using the horse to balance myself, which takes us back to the idea of I'm now getting in my horse's way, okay? So I don't mind if the shoulder comes forward a little bit, but the shoulder cannot come forward so far that the body is trying to compensate for that, okay? We have to keep this here. We have to keep that hip swinging so that we can give the horse the rhythm that we want. When we want them to speed up or slow down, we're giving that all through here. And we can't do that if we do this and now we're stuck here, okay? So same thing if I got my feet in my stirrups. I got a skinny horse here, so I gotta look for my stirrups. If I've got my feet in my stirrups and I push this hand forward and my weight goes into my stirrups, now my weight has come up out of the saddle, okay? And again, I'm depending on the saddle to keep myself balanced, as opposed to when I'm back here, I am balanced myself. If the saddle disappeared out from under me, I would land in like kind of a squat, okay? So upper body needs to be straight, abdominals need to be engaged. Shoulder can come forward, but it can't come forward so far that we are compensating there. And I hope that just sitting in your chair, in your saddle right now, you can feel where that line is. Like, it might not be very far. You might have to stay really, really straight with your shoulders here, okay? The other thing with the upper body, so this is the second thing for the upper body. The upper body in the fast circle needs to open in the direction that we're traveling, okay? So let's say again that we're gonna take off on the left lead. I need for my hip to be rocked under, my legs to be hanging down here, and I need my upper body to open in the direction that I'm going. So if I'm going to the left, my body is going to open to the left. If I'm going to the right, my body is going to open to the right, okay? So what I see a lot of is people moving their hand and looking down. If they're looking down this way, then obviously they're not looking at where the horse is going. Their body language is giving the horse a different signal from what they actually want the horse to do. So we've got to keep that all working together. We've got to keep the shoulders opening in the direction that you want to go. And my general rule for that is a quarter of a circle. You want to be able to be looking and opening your body. You maybe don't have to open your shoulders a quarter of a circle ahead, but you want to be looking a quarter of a circle ahead. Okay, lower body. What should the lower body be doing? So in the fast circles, the lower body needs to stay, your bottom half needs to keep you anchored, okay? So we talked about the seat, and that's really obviously where everything is branching out from, where what your legs and your knees and your ankles and your toes are all doing is all gonna come from here, okay? So if the hip is rocked under and balanced and you've got a little bit of contact with that inside seat bone, then your legs don't have to do very much. Your legs should stay, where do my stirrups go again? Your legs should stay very relaxed. And as you can see here, my legs are relaxed and they're wrapped around my very skinny, non-existent horse, okay? So I'm not forcing my heels down. You can see how that takes my legs out and away from my non-existent horse, okay? I don't wanna have my heels forced down. You can see how that creates some resistance in my knee. And if you're sitting there and you're doing this yourself, if you force your heels down, you can feel your bum come up in the saddle. We don't want that. We wanna stay down. We wanna stay low. We wanna stay where we can give a lot of information to our horse from the seat, because that's the most contact, the most surface area that we've got with the horse, and it's our heaviest point. Right? It's the place where we have the most opportunity to influence the horse. Okay, so legs relaxed, wrapped around. That means that you've got to have a fair bit of flexibility in your outer knee to be able to wrap around. So if you can't do that just yet, don't sweat it. Just don't be forcing your heels down. Okay, I see that a lot. People forcing their heels way, way down, and then it creates trouble all the way up. Okay? Okay, so just to recap, there's two main things for the seat. We want seat bones, okay? You want to have a little bit more weight on your inside seat bone. You want your hip rocked under. Okay, upper body, we want it to be straight. We want shoulders even, and we want to be opening about a quarter of a circle ahead, at least looking a quarter of a circle ahead. Okay, and then legs relaxed, heels not forced down. Okay, if you can put together all of those pieces just as you're sitting here in your chair, on your couch, or in your saddle, then next time you ride, hopefully you'll be able to put a couple of those pieces together, and we can go from there. So we can talk a little bit more about how to cue the horse for the fast circle, how to fix when they're leaning in or leaning out, or how to get more speed, how to how to make it look pretty. Should I be leaning forward? Should I be leaning back? All of those things, but we have to start here. So I hope you made a little bit of progress, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I really hope that you'll reach out to me with more questions. Thanks for watching.